Okay, get castled. Smaller piece attacking a higher piece, so they're blasting in. We want to actually get rid of the bishop at this moment. I think I like the position of our bishop. Didn't really want to develop their own bishop or their queen even. Okay, so they're coming through very gently, very calm opening. I'm hoping that it's too calm and it's too slow. I've actually captured in the center now. Looks like they're working more on the queen side. They've not got any pieces ready for castling, so we're going to just take this pawn off the board. I know it's an early development of the queen. Doesn't look like there's any major threats that can happen to it at the moment. The knight's not in the position to put the check on. Smaller piece like the pawn could do. They're making space now to castle, potentially. Just get a bit of an X-ray through with the bishop onto their queen. Bishop comes out to defend, obviously going castling, so nothing magical there. I think we're probably looking at getting our knight off the back, just getting it into the game. Assuming they're just castling now, so what do we want to do? Obviously I don't really want my white square bishop staying in that type of position. I'm thinking of how do we get it out of there, but it needs to be doing something functional. Got pawn push, pushing down, it's coming towards the knight. We preempt it, and we don't really want the knight being blocked. Do we bring the bishop in and get the knight around? Could even just block with a pawn and just block it. Attack. There seems to be a move order situation going here, so they've captured and capture with the knight. I feel like we're making inroads. We've made space for the white square bishop as well. We've got a 2-on-1 on the knight with the queen and the knight. Obviously it's got defense as well. We're thinking we're slowing the process of them castling, but they could still go and castle. Because all the pieces are defended, which they have done. Got a nice fork now on the bishop and the queen. In our mantra, the knights hunt the bishops if it's safe to do so and it's beneficial to us. Feels beneficial if we're looking to try and double the pawns in front of the king by our dark square bishop taking their knight. I know the queen is still there, currently defending that area as well. The queen has moved. I think we will be just taking the bishop off the board, just scanning to see if there's anything better. I think that's pretty straightforward for now. Trying to look for the gold dust of doubling the pawn in front of the king. Might not happen, because the queen is there like we said. But it probably still would double the pawns in front of the king if we did go for the exchanges of the bishop taking the knight. the queen takes, and the queen takes, and it still doubles the pawns in front of the king. The queen captures. Trying to think longer term, but even if that did happen, we did double the pawns in front of the king, it's not a foregone conclusion you're winning anything, because all the other pieces need to mobilize to take advantage of that doubling of the pawn. Now we can bring the bishop in, bring it into life. Could fianchetto it as well and just sit it in front of our king. We're attacking the rook at the moment, but obviously they're going to see that. But if they don't see it, then we would get the rook for free. Now the rook has gone into a spot where the dark squared bishop could actually attack it. And where does it go from there? I mean, I suppose it can go up a bit, because the knight is protecting that square on b6. But for now, let's just get our rook developed. We're opposite their queen, which is going to cause them a bit of angst. There are lots of things going on in my head at this moment. Potential maneuvers, so at least I've got options and choices. The games where I've got no options and choices, oh, they've gone for an exchange. I don't think I have a problem exchanging. I feel like I'm in a good position because, like we said, the doubling of the pawns in front of the king might be a saving grace for us. If we take their queen, we can actually just take the knight first, because the bishop is actually protecting the queen. So they would be down a minor piece. Their queen doesn't have any protection, so it either moves and resigns itself to losing the piece. If it captures, then we can actually take the queen. So we're up a minor piece out of that exchange, strange as it may seem. Oh, it looks like they've gone a little bit crazy now, they're moving a bit fast. But we can afford to trade down now, can't we? Because we're up a minor piece. We don't need to get arty at all in any way, shape. Could lean on their rook with the dark square bishop to be fancy. Keeping it simple is the order of the day. When you're up minor pieces or up any pieces, trade as best possible. All sounds cliched and all that sort of stuff, but it does make sense in certain circumstances. In others, you might not feel comfortable trading all your pieces because the pieces that you have maybe don't warrant that equalization in your head. You might not feel that they're strong enough to weather the storm if you're trading them off. You have to be careful. Now the player's still playing on. We have to try and find better positions, good positions for the pieces, and try and get them working together as a team and block off any attempts that they have of squishing us. So we've got the rooks on the half open file and the open file, and they're supporting their pawn. Not sure, happy with my knight being in that position now, but behind the knight is that pawn, and our pawn doesn't have any protection on it, so they may focus on attacking that area. So if we move the knight out of the way, then the bishop can drop back and protect that pawn by being in front of it. And this knight is only defended by one rook at the minute, but it's easily defended because the other rook can come behind. But for now, let's just make some space and kind of stopping that rook from jumping to the b8. Is it b? Yes, b8. But at the same token, the knight's moved anyway. It's making a bit more space for us to own the file with the rook. As we mentioned, a bit conscious that our c-pawn is going to be attacked at some point because our knight's blocking the way. Looking to double up the rooks really and see if we can get the e-rook off the board. very conscious now that because we're attacking the A pawn with the rook, they've gone undefended. We bring the rook across, looking now to double up. They can now go back onto the A8, defending the rook. But that's no biggie. I think if we can try and get our knight involved, it might entice them to go and attack our C pawn whilst we're developing the knight attack. Yeah, so they have come back. That square bishop's probably going to get hit as well, so could bring that back. I think maybe moving the knight. Get it into the game, see if there's any magic forks. As we mentioned earlier, conscious that the C pawn's potentially going to be getting hit. Don't want to lose tempo. Attacking the bishop. Now, umming and ahhing about bringing it in front of our king or bringing it back to C3, where we mentioned before about just bringing it and putting it in front of the pawn. That might be a better position because it's got a diagonal going towards the king area. So happy with that. Got to be very mindful that A5 may happen for B4 to happen. Attacking the bishop, moving it out of the way, and then behind that is our pawn. We have to be very careful about that. Lots of things running through my head. Yes, you're up a minor piece, but doesn't mean you're winning anything just because you're up the minor piece. So it looks like they've got that focal point now, like we said, of attacking the C pawn with the rook. So it's x-raying through to that pawn. Because we've covered this already in our own calculation earlier, we potentially could let it go. We know exactly what it is that they're wanting to attempt to do. Do we win some tempo? Let's do a simple pawn push. Because now the pawn, if the pawn does push onto the bishop, we can take the pawn back with the pawn. And then if they push this A pawn, looking for, as we mentioned before, the B4, then we'll deal with that when it happens. Or if it happens. So at least we're aware of that situation. Can't really get a back rank mate either because the knight can always jump back and defend the king. Say if one of the rooks went and attacked that C pawn or something. But that's a long way off yet, so it looks like they're making space for their king now. What's this knight doing? We brought our knight out for a reason. Do we look to double up the rooks on this pawn on A? Can't bring the knight across because the rook is there, it's going to take it. If we give it some space, if we move the rook one up, D7, make space for the knight. So we can bring it across to B6. Oh, it's the bishop move. The bishop's not moving yet. Knight's going to turn the rook up. These. Make some space for the knight to see if we can squeeze it in there. Because it would have a it would have a 2-on-1 on the F7 pawn. But they've obviously sniffed that out and defended now. You know, you try and put a little bit of magic in there and they spot everything, don't they? Okay, so is there any way of putting any more pieces or pressure onto there at all? Move the knight in. So now we are attacking this pawn on A. Potential for the rook coming to see these things. D6, either one of the rooks, put a 2-on-1 on the pawn. Obviously it pushes down, but that might be too much. Maybe make some space for our king as well. Don't look like there's any major threats at the minute. Does it get... Well, their rooks could still go and attack our knight. But nothing major because the bishop's protected. All based on what the opponent's doing next. The knight has come down, don't really know what it's attacking. Oh yes, it's going for a fork. Although the bishop is not for free, but it still get the bishop off the board. If it jumps to E2 with a check, I might as well just move the king across and stop any of that fancy business. Probably didn't have to do that, but you know. These small details are usually the things that end up being the huge catastrophic blunder situation. So it's done a reverse and now it's blocking our rook in, and it's also attacking the bishop as well. Blocking our rook in, but I'm just thinking, well, whatever's going to attack it, we can exchange it. So if it's a rook that's going to be coming, we'll gladly exchange because we're up a minor piece. Not too sure if I want my bishop taken though. I do like my pawns being the way they are. I think we're just moving the bishop out of the way. And keep it as menacing as possible. Although they can push their f-pawn onto the bishop, we've still got areas that we can move the bishop to. I think it's probably fairly troublesome being stopping like the rook going to the b8. As always, just going back to the first early calculations of our c-pawn potentially getting attacked, and this is where that could happen because their rook could come and put a check on our knight, going to c8. Not too major a situation though, obviously, because the bishop can go in on either side to defend the knight or come in and attack their rook. But they're not doing that, they're attacking our rook, giving our rook a bit of breathing space. I'm liking the idea of getting the rooks on the back rank and doubling up. So I think this gives us an excuse to jump. I think the knight's just going to go back again to where it was, blocking the other rook. If we go and attack it on b7, with the idea of bringing the other rook onto the d7, if they forget themselves, but I don't think they will. I think they'll just go back to d5 where they came from. That means we could bring our bishop in and attack their rook. d6. Obviously it's not going to stay there, but you know, it's an attack, isn't it? Although that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Because it could x-ray through onto our rook. Bishop there, rook comes across. Mind you, if his knight's already there, we could bring our rook across and attack their rook on d7. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we thought they were going to go back there. Nice touch of the bishop. Bishop attacking the rook. I was thinking of just taking that knight off the board, but that might be an extreme exchange of trading downs. Bishop attacks the rook, rook comes across, attacking the bishop, rook comes across d7, looking for a trade. Do they trade? Probably not. They probably move across and attack the knight. They move across and attack the knight. Rook's not going there because their knight's defending. What do you do then? And the knight is the pawn. I'm going to look to attack the knight. I'm just bringing this pawn as a supporter first because they do have this lead pawn here. Bishop attacking the rook gave a bit of a situation in terms of the rook could go and attack the knight, and behind the knight is the pawn, and we don't want to give that pawn up. If we can make that pawn functional, get it out of the way, then we potentially could go and do the bishop attacking the rook situation. Oh, they're seeing the bishop off, but I suppose in a way they're kind of kick-starting our maneuvers that we didn't want to start because we were mindful of losing the c-pawn. But we could still start it and maybe they don't follow that track. So I'm going to attack the rook. See if they follow suit and go for d8, and then we're looking for the trade with our rook on d7. And then they jump across and attack the knight. Would get the pawn, but does it improve their position on the board? Is there something different? Okay, so they've moved the knight, actually attacking our rook. Did expect that. That was the only thing I actually saw them doing. After all of that deliberation. Did think also they were going to bring the rook across, but I thought, well, it's more enticing them actually attacking our rook. And the reason why I could move quickly is because obviously I had that as the second option, and I know I was just bringing the rook across, attacking the knight. So two options was the rook coming across attacking the bishop, or the knight attacking our rook. So now we've got two pieces under attack. One of them is a higher piece, and that should work out more in our favour positionally, unless of course their knight can attack another higher piece of ours. Could swing around and just attack the bishop, but our knight would be able to take it off the board. It could just jump around the back and attack the pawn, but he would lose the rook. Sometimes it's okay attacking another piece when you've got a piece under attack, but then it's looking at what actually happens after you've done that. Are you safe? Is there a continuation? Is it a dead cert that you're actually going to get that piece? If the knight had a check on the king and the rook, then that would have been better for them because they would have won of tempo, but in any event they still would be losing the rook because they have to make a move to actually take our rook off the board. Suppose in a way you could look at it, well, they would get our rook for free, whereas our bishop taking is not getting it for free. So there is that benefit. But those are the types of things you have to weigh up in this situation. The opponent didn't have a check on our king. Now he's got two pieces under attack. It could attack our bishop with the rook, because tempo wise, if you look at it, our rook is not going to take the knight because he just gets the bishop for free. But it comes back to that position that we talked about again, with the rook, our rook coming to d7, blocking their rook. So yet again he would have another piece under attack. And it looks like they may have resigned.